And then I will also get us live on Facebook. So just a reminder to everyone who is here with us already, that is where you can find and share the recording of today's discussion immediately and after the Lunch and Learn. It will be on IFU's Facebook page. Aaron, how about you offer these folks our trivia question? Let's make some guesses.
Sure. As we bring people on, let's offer a trivia question for folks. Put your answer in the chat. What city in Iowa houses its city offices on an island? Put your guesses in the chat. And our guests with us today maybe can offer us their guesses as well. Seth, Anna, Ellen, Barney, what do you think? Got any guesses on this one?
I think it's Cedar Rapids, but am I supposed to type it in?
No, you're fine, Barney. We're getting a few guesses in, and that's great. So, and we'll get started in just a moment. We're going to have a very special session here today.
Amazing. We have lots of folks saying Cedar Rapids. Lisa says Cedar Rapids, Mary Ellen, Jeffrey, Lori Lane. Okay. I have a feeling that may be our answer, but Aaron is the keeper of the answer, so he'll tell us when it's time.
Well, I only know one of the correct answers. There may be more than one, right? Because there are a lot of cities in Iowa, and I might not have all the answers to this. So, okay.
Well, everybody, we're all set. Recording, live streaming. If you want to say hello in the chat, you can. And I think Aaron will go ahead and kick things off for us.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. This is a very special session of the Iowa Farmers Union Lunch and Learn, and we are so grateful to be joined by Iowa Farmers Union members from around the state. So thank you so much for being here, Seth. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Barney. And thank you, Anna. It's great to have you all here. We really appreciate you joining us. So thank you for being here. We're going to start our discussion in just a moment. Our discussion is going to focus on USDA and how important USDA services are to Iowa farmers and to our rural communities, and what the threats are to crucial USDA programs, funding, and relationships. But before we do that, let's start off with a couple of Iowa Farmers Union announcements. Not this weekend, but next weekend, the Iowa Farmers Union Potluck Barn Party is taking place Saturday, July 26th in Elkhart. We're going to have a great time. In addition to all the wonderful food and fellowship that will be there, we've invited 3 Senate candidates for the U.S. Senate here in Iowa. J.D. Schulten, Zach Walls, and Nathan Sage have all been invited to share some time with us there at the barn party taking place in Elkhart on July 26th. If you haven't had a chance to sign up yet, please do so today. We want to see you there. I also wanted to mention that the Iowa State Fair is a fantastic event for the Iowa Farmers Union. We have a booth in the agriculture building just down the hall from the Butter Cow, and we have great conversations there all 11 days of the fair, August 7th through 17th. In addition to that, on Sunday, August 10th, the Iowa State Fair has the Iowa Farmers Union Day, which we have a huge presence right on the main concourse on one of the busiest days of the fair, right in front of the admin building. And we have all sorts of wonderful conversations, activities planned for that. So if you would like to help us out, we are really looking forward to that event. Please check up the sign up link in the chat. It is a great way to tell the good things going on in the Farmers Union and to learn from all sorts of folks from around the state and really around the world who come to the Iowa State Fair. But it is a fantastic opportunity, and we could use your help. In fact, we are in one of our fundraising efforts regarding our state fair presence is that we have some fantastic ticket packages for some grandstand shows, including parking. And if you are interested in bidding on those tickets, we would love to hear from you. So please let us know. Bid on the Rascal Flatts and Hank Williams Jr. concert tickets on the link in the chat. It's a really, really fun way to support the Farmers Union presence at the Iowa State Fair. And the bidding starts now, but you will have all week and about 10 days before the end of the bidding for that fantastic opportunity. I also wanted to mention that the Iowa Farmers Union sends farmers to the National Farmers Union Fly-In in Washington, D.C., taking place September 7th through 10th. And this is a fantastic opportunity for us to talk directly to our policy leaders in Washington, members of Congress and their staff, agencies at Department of Agriculture, Department of Justice, the Federal Trade Commission, among many others. Typically, we send about 300 farmers from around the country. And there is no better way to have the Farmers Union tell its story than to have our farmers and our rural folks go to Washington, D.C. in person. There is some good help to help people do that. So if you're interested, please let us know. You can contact me at Lehman@iowafarmersunion.org if you're interested in helping us spread the good word in Washington, D.C. And it is such an important time to do that, right? Because we have so many critical USDA programs that are at risk. And today we are talking with farmers from around the state about how to take action because these programs impact their farm and their community. And so first of all, we'd love to turn our attention to Seth Watkins. So Seth, please introduce yourself and your farm and how your farm and your community relies on USDA funding and USDA partnerships.
Sure. My name's Seth Watkins. I farm near Clarinda, Iowa in southwest Iowa. I raise cattle, sheep, bees for honey. We sometimes have chickens off and on. And I've started planting more and more, hopefully, trees that'll be a source probably for my daughter. I don't think they will be in my lifetime, but we have chestnut trees, northern pecans, hazelnuts, plums, and elderberries. And you know, my story on my farm is that, like many people, I started farming full time in the late '80s, and the pressure was on me to specialize and to grow and to build what was considered to be a large and efficient operation. And a few years ago, as I was complaining about not being able to get good help, I started thinking about how many farmsteads I'd literally bulldozed out as I built this major efficient farming operation. And I looked at myself and I said, you know, you're a big part of this problem. Maybe I can be part of the solution. And that's what led to me actually deliberately downsizing over the last several years from 4,000 acres to about 400 acres and seeing how diverse and sustainable I can really make a farm. And during this journey, I've seen a lot of really good things happen, from the impact it's had on creating opportunities for other farmers to the impact it's had on my community. And the USDA has been my partner through the whole experience. And I think often we think about some of the programs USDA has that helps on the larger scale, but it's the programs that have helped me on the smaller scale that have really made a big difference. The programs that have helped me protect our water, the programs that have helped me improve my grazing, all these programs have helped me keep more money local. They've kept money in my pocket, and that means that money stayed in my community. So USDA has been a tremendous partner for me on this whole journey, and they're going to be a big partner, I hope, going forward.
Well, very good, Seth. And let me just ask a question. You know, the Trump administration's fiscal 2026 budget would slash nearly $7 billion from the USDA. And for instance, the Farm Service Agency provides critical support for farm loans, conservation, disaster assistance, what would be cut by nearly $400 million. The Natural Resources Conservation Service would have drastic cuts, not just to the program, but also to technical assistance to farmers. But farmers trust our local USDA offices. And it's a really trusted source of information and partnerships. What's that going to mean if those partnerships are cut, and what's it mean for you and your farm to work with your local offices with these cuts?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot the last couple of days, and I guess the first thing I always try to do when something like this is coming is try to put myself in the other person's shoes or try to understand what they're thinking. So I think address the fact that this country has a $36 trillion deficit. And I appreciate the fact that our elected officials are trying to do something. I guess what worries me, speaking from my experience as a farmer, is I don't want to see us be, how do you say it, penny wise and pound foolish. When we're cutting the programs that protect our water, when we're cutting the programs that create opportunities for young farmers, when we're eliminating, like a good example would be with NRCS funding, they've slowly cut away at that program for years to where the local offices are already operating on a shoestring. And what's really sad about that is oftentimes it's the employees at the local office that get undeserved criticism instead of maybe the people above that are making the cuts. So an example I think about for me is, as farmers, we deal with more and more significant weather events, and we want to do our practices the right way, but it also means the engineering and design on, say, a pond or a waterway has to be significantly different than even when I started 30 years ago. Yet we deal with an NRCS office that only has 3 or 4 engineers across the whole state. So it's really hard to get those practices done. Eliminating technical support right now, when we're seeing the kind of flooding that we face in Iowa, when we're seeing some of the disasters, the derecho would be an example of where FSA stepped up and immediately got farmers whole again. This will be catastrophic for small towns. It'll be catastrophic for farmers. And it also goes without saying, if we're really serious about getting after this deficit, what bothers me as a farmer is that we're doubling down on some of the programs that I personally feel like they don't help us. You know, we're enhancing federal crop insurance on highly erodible land. I watched us give out $830 million in the state of Iowa in payments for the tariffs that weren't even needed, and with no accountability for farm income, no accountability for conservation compliance. I guess what I just want to stress is that as farmers, we're practical. We want to do the right thing, but we need that help. And maybe it's good intentions, but some of the places we're putting the money isn't making things better. That's all I've got.
Well, and that's super important, Seth. So what should people do? I mean, now's the time when our policy leaders making decisions in your particular neck of the woods. What should people be doing now?
I want them to reach out to Representative Nunn's staff and let them know that our water matters to us, that we want opportunity for young farmers to have a chance, that we want to continue to work together to build farms, not bigger farms, and that you can drive around our communities and you can see firsthand when we invest in our farmers and we invest in our landscape, the communities thrive. So I want them to reach out and say, please continue to fund our FSA offices, continue to fund our NRCS offices, and let those of us as farmers continue to do the work we really want to do and have the money to get it done. We want to put good conservation practices on the land. And it's pretty frustrating when you walk in and there's not someone to help, or worse yet, you're waiting 2, 3, 4, even 5 years to get the money to build a pond or to put in a waterway or do some of the things that we really need to keep our farms strong.
Well, very, very good, Seth. And thank you so much for sharing that. Barney Burnfuse, tell us about your farm and its connection with USDA programs, how integral that's been a part for your farm and your community.
Okay, thank you. We're operating on just under 500 acres, mostly cattle, sheep, very few hogs, and a few chickens once in a while. Over the years, we went from going to, I was very conventional cattleman with set stock rates for years. After going to many conferences, we were excited about the possibilities of mob grazing, uh, but it's very costly and it's risky to try something. And when we heard about an equip grant actually at a conference from another participant, and we checked it out, and it has done wonders to our farm.
Mm.
We checked out the equip grant. We ended up getting money for water lines. We have a 63-acre pasture, and the well was at extremely one end, which made it very hard to mob graze it. With the water line we were able to put in and the initial material to fence it with temporary posts and polywire, we were able to completely change that pasture. And over the years, we have seen many native species come in the pasture. We've got much
Mm.
more grass. We've got much more ground cover. So there's less runoff. It has truly transformed us with the mob grazing. And once we saw the benefits there, we are doing it on other places on our farm, and with similar similar success, where we have seen native species come back that we didn't even plant, but we allowed them to thrive. So that was it was transformational being able to get the equip grant. Uh, after the few years of mob grazing, some of the blowouts on places in the pastures literally healed themselves
Oh,
slowly. The grass came back in, very noticeable. Uh, so that that's the main
well,
reason. Yes,
that's great, Barney. And we know from recent surveys that farmers uh, are really rallying around the support needed to increase long-term funding for voluntary conservation programs. Um, but at the same time, we know there's farmer support. In Iowa, we have firsthand accounts of between 50 and $100 million of conservation funding not get directed through our local offices. And it's very hard to get exact numbers from the USDA or congressional offices about these frozen funds. When these funds are frozen, what's it mean for you and what's it mean for your neighbors?
it's had a very direct impact on us. We had over a year ago, we had signed up for a CSP contract. It was a very new. They had changed the CSP, and this was the first year of the new version.
Mhm.
And we signed up for it. Only one person in the state got it. We were told by our local office that that's quite normal to try for 1 year. They see and work the bugs out of it. He said, you should be a shoe in next year. We had all the paperwork done. He told us this spring, come back in and update the paperwork. Shouldn't be a problem. We were going to be doing numerous things that it was going to be a 5 year plan on eradicating invasive species, some pollinator planting, some numerous things. And when we went in this spring, they have no idea anything that's going on.
Wow.
Don't know if there's any money. It's just if they don't know. If they don't know, we can't do anything. So it has really affected us.
Yeah. So, this lack of transparency and lack of funding and lack of a partnership, um, it really erodes trust among farmers, doesn't it? And
Yes.
so what should farmers do about that? Our policy leaders are deciding this now.
Well, we have our representatives and senators on our phone all the time, and we do
Hmm.
call them. And I would encourage anyone to call their representatives. We call Ms. Miller-Meeks frequently, and our senators also, to let them know that this is affecting real people and it will affect real small towns. So yes, we are real believers in contacting our representatives.
Well, and really that is really standing up for telling your story on your farm and telling the story of our rural communities is so important. So thank you, Barney, for doing that. We're going to shift to Ellen Walsh-Roseman, if we could. Ellen, tell us a little bit about your farm and your food enterprise, and about investments and partnerships with the USDA, and tell us about yourself.
Hello, I'm Ellen Walsh-Roseman. Thanks again for having me. So my husband and I and his brother, we farm with our in-laws. So we're a multi-generational farm. We are considered a small farm, 700 acres. We do cattle and hogs and grain and such, and we're able to support, quite a few families off that small amount of land because of our diversified markets. So for over 25 years, my in-laws have had a private label meat business, and selling animals to area grocery store, or processed animals, meat to area grocery stores, as well as to direct to consumer, as well as off our farm. So with programs like the LFS and LFPA, we were able to leverage very scalable marketing of our finished products. So pallets worth of products that was going to a food hub, so farm table delivery, and then being distributed to food banks as well as schools, markets that we wouldn't have been able to reach as a farmer. So with the help of working with food hubs, we were able to do that. They took care of all the distribution, the marketing, the logistics and stuff. And, the beauty of those programs was they were guaranteed sales. So we could make that locker date, and we knew that a whole animal was going directly to those customers. It was a lot easier for us to sell. The logistics and the administrative part behind selling, 1 pound of hamburger at a time, it's cumbersome. Or selling a half or a whole animal, there's a lot of parts that have to move with that. So it was just a lot easier in that regard. We could contact the food hub and say, hey, in 6 weeks, we're going to have a finished animal, and they would find a home for it. We also know that there's also the altruistic value of those programs. Those customers are receive a lot of subsidized food as it is, but that a lot of that's highly processed, or maybe not things that are coming from their regional area. So this program allowed for them to purchase subsidized local and regional food, which is something that we've never seen in our history of ever. So that was pretty amazing to participate in that and know that we were giving high quality product to food banks and their clientele, as well as to schools across the state of Iowa who may not have been able to afford, organic beef and such. So the program, yeah, go ahead, Aaron. Sorry.
Well, just to put some numbers behind it, the LFPA and the LFS programs gave $6 million to the state to help out with and over 290 local farmers, to 135 schools, to 951 food pantries and food banks. And we were set for another $11 million to come into Iowa, and then it went away.
Yeah, so that news, on March 10th was pretty disheartening. When that funding was renewed last fall, a lot of farmers, ours included, as well as many vegetable farmers, had either made the locker dates, purchased the seed, planting out crops to supply those programs. When those programs started, there was always discussion about, are we going to be able to keep up with the demand? And the Food Hub Working Group did a really good job, as well with Iowa Valley RC&D, to make sure that that was happening, because it was like the chicken and egg kind of situation, and we didn't want to flood the market.
Right.
And all these different things that were happening. And Iowa had the best run program in the country, with the leadership of Giselle and Jason Grimm and all the folks over at Iowa Valley RC&D, Teresa Wimmerslein, and the Food Hub Working Group. I see a couple of them are on the call right now. Hi, guys. So, you know, it was just really disheartening because there was nothing wrong. And we also know that for every dollar that was spent in that program, $4 were going back into our local economies, which you can't say that about many government subsidized programs, that you have that kind of ROI and that you are able to push money back into a local economy. And immediately, like a lot of times you might see it a generation later. So that was pretty disheartening, and such. So.
Well, and there was efforts to bring this back in through the big, beautiful bill, and they didn't happen. And there's efforts to bring it in the budget. So, but it's not too late for our policy leaders to take action on this. What should we do now to let our leaders know how important this is?
Well, if we ever get a farm bill, maybe there could be something in there, but you know, it's kind of pessimistic that could happen for many reasons. But I think that, you know, what we're going to feel, or what we already feel on our farm for the last 4 or 5 months, is we're having to sell more to direct to consumer, or we're taking those animals and having to sell them through the commodity or commercial market, which is not as consistent. It's not as reliable. Some of it's harder. So like, for instance, when I started my food hub, Farm Table Delivery is now a nonprofit. So when we started our food hub, I was doing farmers market and selling 1 pound of vegetables at a time to 30 customers. And I was like, this is crazy. Takes way too long. There is a place for farmers markets, right? But being efficient with your time as a farmer is everything. And also making sure that you are able to be the price giver, not the price taker, which is the beauty of a regional food system. And we were at this really great tipping point. I think the pandemic really shed light on how valuable regional and local food is. And so we were at this tipping point of a really amazing things happening. And we were, of course, being supported and subsidized the marketing infrastructure with these programs and such. And so for those to just go away, and we still are continuing to heavily subsidize the other side of the food system, which isn't actually feeding people, is and really bringing value into our local communities like these programs were. So
absolutely. So we have a lot of decisions yet to make in Washington on these, and you've been reaching out to your particular congressperson as well, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Representative Randy Feenstra, you know, I would like to make sure that these programs are refunded, re-implemented in the next farm bill and continued, because we know they work, and they work well. And they're working well all over the country, but they're specifically working very well in the state of Iowa. So we need to continue those programs, especially in Western Iowa, which is constantly denied, or he never takes earmarked money. So for anything, it seems like. So yes,
a huge impact there. So thank you, Ellen, for sharing that with us.
Don't get discouraged, all my local food system friends.
We've got a lot of work to do, but we have a lot to be proud of and a lot to build off of for the fantastic work we've been doing here. That's exactly right. Anna Hankins is joining us as well. Anna, thank you for being with us. And please tell us about your farm and the impact of federal programs, USDA programs, and making a real difference on your farm and your community.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Anna Hankins-Peshek, and I co-own Over the Moon Farm. We're a direct-to-consumer farm business based in eastern Iowa. We've been around since 2019. And we've really done a whole range of things, from horticulture to primarily what we're doing now is direct-to-consumer livestock production. So we farrow to finish hogs, and we raise pasture-raised poultry, and we also partner with other young and beginning farmers to bring our customers grass-fed beef and pasture-raised lamb. and create market opportunities for other people. And so we have basically only known building a business in an era where we had these supports, like what Ellen was discussing with the Local Food Purchasing Assistance Program and Local Food for Schools program. We began selling into that program in 2022 during its inception in Iowa, and that allowed us to expand our production because we had wholesale outlets like schools and food pantries. We went from 10 hogs to we're finishing about 100, and we have a sow herd of about 25. So that's a really substantial increase. I am 30 years old. I'm about 25 years younger than what the average age of a farmer in Iowa is. I believe the census told us in 2022 that the average age of a farmer in Iowa is around 57. I have been working on specialty farms in Iowa since I was 21 and running our own business since I was 24. So a decade later, almost a decade later, I have been, deeply involved in this world. And echoing what Seth has said about USDA being a partner, USDA has also been a partner for myself and my partner who I co-own our business with. Throughout the years, we've worked with USDA in numerous capacities. On the local level, we've worked with our USDA office to apply for a storage capacity loan. And I think something that's really important to understand is for young and beginning farmers, the barriers to entry to farming are really high, really, really high. They're sometimes lower when we look at specialty crop businesses. So vegetables, flowers, which we've done, some direct-to-consumer livestock, the barrier to entry can be less. So we see some beginning farmers moving towards that type of diversified farming that you can maybe have more profitability on smaller acreages, especially when land access is so hard, all of the things, right? But those are often really complex businesses. They take extra support. When you go into a USDA office, for example, my experience with a storage capacity loan, those are typically meant for grain storage, or they're typically awarded for grain storage, for hay storage, for commodity type products. But they're also available to vegetable storage, like cold storage for vegetables, or freezer storage for direct consumer meat and whatnot. But your USDA offices need to have enough resources and support that they have the staff capacity to help with those more complex businesses and to help farmers that might be coming into their office and they have a business model that perhaps is different than what's common in the county. It takes more legwork, and it's really, really important for beginning farmers like myself and others that come after us to make sure that we have a USDA that is well funded, that has enough support in our local offices to make it possible for beginning farmers like myself. We can look at the statistics. I won't go through them all about our aging farm population and what that looks like, and the potential for just massive transfer of land, but we need to make sure that we have enough resources for beginning farmers like myself to make it. We also have worked with USDA Rural Development to apply for the USDA's Value Added Producer Grant. So that is a large federal pool of money that is authorized by the Farm Bill to support value-added businesses. It's a federal program, and it is means that farms like ours are competing on a national stage to get awarded that funding. Maximum award is $250,000 spread across 3 years. It can be used for working capital, especially in the moment we're living in right now, where we're seeing serious decreased access to funding. That program is really important. So we applied for the first time for that program in 2024. We were not awarded it. Similar, I think, to Barney's experience, sometimes things, only a few people in Iowa get it. And so we knew that it would probably take more than 1 year to give it a go. And so we worked super closely with USDA Rural Development in Des Moines to review our application. We had phone calls to be able to discuss how we could improve it. Really, we were just a few points off, and it was really, really important to have that direct line to them, to have someone to review that application. It's a beast of something to apply for. So we reapplied in 2025. Again, we went through that process working super closely with USDA Rural Development, felt really good about that. But in 2024, we heard that no farms actually were awarded that grant in Iowa.
Wow.
And so, for such a heavily agricultural state, that's really disheartening to me. And I see the need to make sure that we have enough USDA staff that are equipped, that can make sure that Iowa farmers can be competitive on that national stage. We're seeing those awards go in mass to other states. There's, plenty in Pennsylvania, plenty in even some of the surrounding Midwest states, and none in Iowa. And so we applied again. We're hoping for that, but I certainly feel concerned without passing a farm bill. It's looking like in the current budget reconciliation that funding for the value-added producer grant is at the lowest level that we've seen in decades. And so I'm incredibly concerned about that. Again, as one of the only pools of funding that may exist, having access to that type of working capital to grow our business is really critical. And I think just what all the panelists have expressed on this call is businesses like ours, we're economic drivers of communities. And our rural communities desperately, they need us to continue being economic drivers. And beginning farmers, I think especially have opportunity there to drive innovation, to drive economic change, and to keep pushing on. And for me, what's really, really important is to continue letting our elected officials know. So for me, continuing to let Ashley Hinson know that I need a strong USDA to move forward. I've been, again, I have been working on specialty farms in Iowa since I was 21. I'm 30 years old now, and I hope to be able to do this for the rest of my life, another 30 years. And it's really, really important that the resources exist to make that possible. And I want more people like myself to feel like they have possibilities and like they have a future in Iowa. And I think we need a partner. We need a partner in the federal government to do that. And that partner has to be USDA. So I hope that Ashley Hinson is able to share these stories. I hope that she's able to communicate the importance of USDA programs for farmers like myself in her district in Iowa. And of course, I'm always happy to speak to any of my elected officials, so they're welcome to reach out, and I'm happy to share more about my story in depth and make sure that they can share that with anyone they need to.
Well, and that was such a compelling argument to make. We are facing massive consolidation in agriculture in Iowa, and no more so than in the meat industry, where just a few players control so much of the market. Talk a little bit about how important it is to build alternative systems than a massively consolidated system where there's all sorts of monopolistic behavior going on.
Yes, thank you so much for asking that question. So for me, I think it's always easiest to start by talking about how when we concentrate supply chains, we also concentrate risk in supply chains.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that anything was more obvious than when the COVID-19 pandemic hit Iowa, that we saw that consolidated risk. So we saw farmers not having places to take their animals and therefore having to euthanize animals in hog confinement barns. We saw meatpacking plant workers getting sick and many dying in numbers that are hard for me to even comprehend. We saw so much challenge. And out of that, we did see funding like the Local Food Purchasing Assistance Program come to be, Local Food for Schools, with the intended desire that if we could support small and mid-scale farmers, we could create a system that was less concentrated, and therefore we could de-risk things a little bit for the sake of our regional security, our national security, et cetera. Those supply chain programs are really, really crucial. And so when I think about our deeply concentrated supply chain. I think that my farm is, we're talking apples to oranges. Like, that's an understatement, right? Like, my 100 hog farrow to finish operation is uncomparable to our deeply concentrated, vertically integrated hog production in the state of Iowa. And what we're doing is we're creating economic opportunity. We're supporting other small businesses. You know, we're buying thousands of dollars of feed from one of the only small local feed mills that even exists around us. We're taking animals to a small scale butcher. You know, but a lot of hogs. We're, you know, taking 100 a year. That's substantial economic investment for someone else that's employing people. And those opportunities are really, really crucial. We're creating opportunities here in rural Iowa. And so I'm always concerned about concentration. And I think that there is, the solution to that is, of course, multifaceted. We need these economic programs. We need enforcement of antitrust policies. We need all of the things to happen right at once. And so I think advocating for fixing a complex problem with complex solutions, but with diverse people at the table is critical.
Well, thank you so much, Anna, and very well argued point about how important it is to not only make sure we're addressing those monopolies head on, but we are also building systems that make a difference for our family farms and our rural communities. And so we appreciate that very, very much. We've talked from farmer from each of the congressional districts, and I wanted just to share a little bit a message especially directed to our two Iowa senators. Our two Iowa senators and two of our Congress people from the U.S. House. Both of our senators serve on the Agriculture Committee, and that is extremely important. It shows the importance of Iowa in the larger scale of American agriculture. So it's very important that we reach out to everyone, and especially to our two senators, Joni Ernst and Chuck Grassley, to stand up for a strong farm bill. I'm a fifth generation farm. This is our farm here in northern Polk County. I've been privileged to farm with my family. And one of the things that I really appreciate for hearing from today and from serving in the Farmers Union is that farmers really rely on a robust, honest, pragmatic partnership, a farmer-public partnership, to make sure that our family farms can thrive, to make sure that we can implement practices that contribute to a healthy landscape and to thriving rural communities. And without that partnership, it will only lead to greater consolidation, fewer family farms, and deteriorating local communities. And that's where our investment in the USDA really makes a difference. Yes, it's very important that we invest USDA towards research funds and our rural development funds and all those things. But we also want to make sure we're paying particular attention to that investment in our rural communities, our trusted partners, to make things happen on the farm. For us, that's meant putting in using diverse rotations in our crop operation, and using, in addition to that, using cover crops, using various wetlands and edge of field buffers, and all those things helping us build a more healthy farm, a more resilient soil, but also contributing to a healthy landscape. And it can't be done just by wishing it were so. It really takes an investment. It really takes a partnership. And the actions that are being taken to cut those investments are going to get us nowhere unless we tell our policy leaders, stand up, make a really, really impassioned case for your constituents, for your farms, and your rural communities here in Iowa. So with that being said, we are so grateful that we've been joined today. Again, Seth, Barney, Ellen, Anna, thank you so much for bringing together these stories and urging people to take action with our elected leaders and having them speak loudly on behalf of Iowa family farms and Iowa rural communities. So we will be around. If there are folks in the media who want to ask specific questions, we will try to address those after our presentation here. And we are so grateful that we've been able to put this together. And we'll look forward to having more conversations. In fact, I see that we've been joined some folks that we hope will be joining us at our barn party next Saturday. It's going to be taking place in Elkhart on the Thompson farm. So sign up there where you're going to be talking with the candidates for the U.S. Senate position. So please sign up to do that. Join us at the Iowa State Fair and help us spread the good word about the Iowa Farmers Union to folks from all over the state, and all over the country, and all over the world. And consider coming to the Iowa Farmers Union join the Iowa Farmers Union delegation at the National Farmers Union Fly-In taking place in September, where we bring these stories face to face with policy leaders in Washington, D.C. So we're so grateful. Thank you again, everyone. It's been wonderful having you with us, and we will look forward to catching up in face-to-face in the future. Thanks again, Seth. Thank you, Barney. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Anna and Christina, and the Iowa Farmers Union team. Thank you so much for pulling this all together where we could really bring this message forward. So thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.